Greetings and bienvenue, MITZU. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Be me. Weird kid. Have weird dream. In a white room speaking to a humanoid wearing a black body stocking-like suit with a red skull-like face with huge black eyes. He's sitting in a chair that looks like the ones at my kitchen table that are kind of made of cheap wood and a little rickety because kinda poor. He's pretty nice. Tells me his name but I can't remember it. Talks to me about how humans are one of many and that we used to know this. Suddenly we're in my kitchen. And the TV turns on and shows me a bunch of planets and other space stuff. Only understand some of it because I'm fascinated by history and space and planets. He tells me I have nothing to be afraid of from him, and that he'll be back sometime. Over the next several years, spend time around a bunch of doctors arguing over whether I have depression, ADHD, or bipolar disorder. Go off all meds at age 15. After some weird stuff starts happening, sleepwalking, losing time, that kind of thing. Never end up outside or anything dangerous. Just wake up in different parts of my townhouse than I went to sleep in. Nothing for a few years. Start finally feeling like myself for the first time in years. Be 19 or 20. Wake up and take a shower. Toweling off. See in the big mirror over the sink that there's something on the back of my shoulder. Perfect, and I mean perfect triangle. With completely straight sides, scarred on the back of my shoulder. A few little dots on each side of it. WTF. Show it to my mother. She's weirded out by it too but thinks I must have done something in my sleep. Scar fades to nothing after a few months. Even more weirded out by this. What the hell, man? Mom doesn't remember the scar.
My grandpa would never go in his attic. Would never tell us why. Me and siblings grew up not really questioning it. All of us just knew that Pop wouldn't go in the attic. Whenever he needed something from it, we'd go get it for him. Totally normal attic. Never got any spooky vibes from it. Years later, Grandpa dies. Died peacefully in his sleep. I go stay with my grandma to keep her company. One night we're up late talking about old memories. I bring up the attic in a story. Grandma gets really quiet. Asks if anyone ever talked to me about why he wouldn't go up there. She tells me that when they first moved into the house, Pop couldn't sleep. He said something about the house just didn't feel right. He paced all night like he was crazy. Went over every inch of the house with a fine-toothed comb. Grandma is really worried but doesn't say anything. One night he goes up into the attic. She hears him start screaming. She sprints up to the attic and finds him curled up in a ball. He's sobbing. Grandma asks him what happened. He looks up at her and tells her he figured it out. He points to where the eaves of the roof narrow down toward the far end. She looks, there's nothing there. Then she looks closer and sees something she can't really describe or explain. All she could compare it to was origami. It was like space was folded up on itself. The angles were all wrong. She said when she looked at it she could feel herself going crazy. Like something inside her was melting. She drags Pop down the stairs and puts him to bed. He sleeps for 2 days. When he wakes up, he says he'll never go into the attic again as long as he lives. Never says another word about it. Ignores Grandma when she brings it up. Grandma goes quiet and I don't say anything. We moved on to other stuff and she hasn't brought it up again since. Turns out most of my family knows. That part of the attic has always been blocked with a huge old bureau. Now I know why.
Be me. 16 years old, scrawny. Going into sophomore year. Don't have a great life, but manageable in hindsight. I was really depressed at the time and thought about death a lot. I ride a bike home because I don't have a car yet. I start learning the train schedule to make sure I don't get stuck waiting to cross the tracks by a train. Get a brilliant idea one day. Speed home along the road on a little BMX bike to catch the train before it gets to the tracks. Bike is one of those one-speeders with a light frame and you stand to pedal if you don't want to look like a clown. Put on headphones so it looks like it might be an accident when I get hit. People will just assume I didn't hear it. While crossing the street to get to the train, this Lexus comes speeding by at way over the 35 miles per hour speed limit. No helmet, of course. Oh no, JPG. Little BMX bike BTFO by speeding car. Get flung onto hood of car. Unconscious before I hit the ground. Hear myself pronounced as dead on arrival. Mom shows up to ID body absolutely devastated. Hear cops talking about how I must have gotten my bike stuck in the railroad tracks and not heard the train. Death by multiple system failure and severe spinal cord trauma. Start to fade towards some other form of consciousness. Open eyes to see cops and bystanders. Try to move. Fires of hell would have been less painful. Bleeding from my head, face, nose, chest, and leg, bit through tongue a bit. Collarbone and ribs are obviously broken along with several fingers and my nose. But I'm alive. I'm not sure if it was me going into shock or seeing what would have happened made me turn into a goof, but I was just so happy to be alive. Still feels good knowing that I got the sense knocked back into me. It was quite the wake-up call. MFW being hit by a car was better than not being hit by a car.
Anyone else had slightly strange experiences as a young child, and only when you got older did you look back on them and realize they were impossible? 3 or 4 years old. We're poor and live in a crappy apartment. My parents slept on a mattress on the floor. One day, playing and jumping on the mattress. Jump off the mattress and onto the floor, but somehow managed to end up flipped completely upside down out of nowhere, balanced perfectly on the center of my head, with nothing close to lean on, and not using my hands to support either. Defying laws of physics but too young to realize. As a kid just think, haha, I have a flat head and I balanced on it. Think back on it later on in my life and realize it's completely impossible. Parents don't remember it at all. 4 or 5 years old. Wake up the middle of the night. Mom is not home. Walk into living room. Dad is standing there, in the middle of the room, fully naked, standing in a T-pose like a 3D computer model. He's completely motionless, like a statue. Not even blinking. Too young to care all that much or question it. Go back to bed. Decades later I think about it again and realize how weird it was. Dad passed away, so now I can't even ask him.
Be me. 10 minutes ago. Driving home from work. Cruising down a 2-lane highway. See a car coming my way. All of a sudden, the asshole swerves into my lane. No time to react. Head-on collision. Lose consciousness immediately. Wake up in a white room. See a man who looks exactly like me seated at a black table. There is a computer in front of him. He tells me I was in a horrible car accident. Ask him if I'm dead. He tells me that in about 5 minutes, I will be. Ask him if there's an afterlife. Tells me that my life is an infinite loop. And once I die, I will be reborn. As myself. Living the same life, over and over, without end. He gives me his computer and tells me to type out my last words. Go to, be and frantically write this post. I only have a few minutes left. My life is about to end. My life is about to begin. I'm 20 years old. 20 years from now, I will be posting this again. I have no idea how many times this has happened before.
Be me. Start going to university. Don't have time to go to the gym after school, so decide to go early in the morning. Set alarm for 4:30 and head to bed. Wake up, get ready and leave. Haven't seen any cars on the road, but it's 5 a.m. so I don't think anything of it. Finally see a car traveling in the opposite direction as me stopped in an intersection. Same model as mine. Same color as mine. Same license plate as mine. Wait, what the hell? It's still dark out, but I can see through the windshield. The guy looks like me. Exactly like me. I'm frozen at the intersection, just trying to wrap my brain around what I'm seeing. The light turns green and it drives right past me. Suddenly feel the most intense dread I have ever felt. I hear a voice in my head screaming to get home. Honestly, I have never felt anything like this before. It felt so primal, like how I imagine an animal might feel when it's cornered. Feel like I've lost control of my body and instinct has taken over. Pull a U-turn and speed home. Arrive just as the thing is getting out of its car. Park on the side of the road and get out of mine. As soon as I step out, it looks at me. Felt my body seize up. Everything went silent. I don't know how to describe my vision. It was like those corrupt GIFs where the video glitches out. I'll try and find an example. Fall to the ground. Wake up in bed to the sound of my alarm clock. 4:30 a.m. What the hell? Convince myself it was just one messed up dream. Get ready to head to the gym. Everything is exactly as it was in my dream. Getting major deja vu. Start walking outside to get in my car. MFW, it's parked in the driveway. MFW, I parked on the street the night before. Opus here. My vision was pretty similar to this.
I was a 22-year-old crybaby who had his girlfriend of a year cheat on me. I drink a handle of whiskey and call my dad in a drunken mess to pick me up. He is yelling at me as we drive to grow up. I tell him to pull over and let me out. He says no, and I threaten to jump out of a moving vehicle. He accelerates very fast and says, "I dare you." "Okay, Dad," and I jumped out. Wake up in hospital and then get put in a psych ward. Young black girl in the psych ward with me claims she had died several times and we are in a false dimension. She has cutting scars all over her wrist and neck. She is very pretty but honestly scares the shit out of everyone there with her loud outburst. Had a tone in her voice that would pierce your soul. I am interested and always try talking to her about the false dimension. She says that our current dimension is hell for sins committed in the true dimension. Says the true dimension has beings made of gelatin materials and death is not possible. Only sent to different dimensions for committing crimes. Will never explain how she knows this and I do not believe her but do not tell her this. She starts to trust me and gives me a palm reading. This is a big deal because she freaks out about physical contact. She says I have a mind that can see what she sees. Ask if I want to see the true dimension. I get nervous by the look in her eyes but do not believe, so say yes. She grabs my hand very tightly and puts her head down, mumbling. I feel a warm tingling sensation take over my whole body. I feel like I am going to black out and am getting very dizzy. The walls start shaking and melting and I say stop but she just continues to mumble. I panic and start screaming and the muscle comes running in and needle us both in the ass. I wake up restrained in a bed and they extend my stay by another 2 weeks. I do not mention what she said she was showing me out of fear of sounding crazy and not being allowed to leave. Just say she grabbed me violently. Never see her again.
Be me. 8 or 9, lying in bed not sleeping like a boss. Start to get this really weird feeling that I need to look outside. Ignore it, try to play that game with my hands where you pretend they're alligator monsters. Fun for a little while but that feeling is really strong. Eventually say screw it and get out of bed to go look out window. We live in a pretty heavily forested part of the town so all I see is a bunch of pine trees. Must be a strong wind, one tree in particular is getting beat to death. Get a weird feeling about it and then it hits me. It's the only tree moving. Looks like it's having a seizure. It was really unnatural, it felt like it was an artifact glitch. Suddenly the tree literally flies into the goddamn sky and vanishes. I tactically shit myself and run back to bed and stay under the covers until dawn. It sounds goofy but just imagine how pants-shittingly terrifying this was to see in person.
This is all 100% true, but no one ever believes me. In 8th grade, wake up one morning before school. It's still dark out. Assume I must have woken up too early. About to go back to sleep when my alarm goes off and scares the shit out of me. It's the middle of spring. It shouldn't be dark. Wonder if I'm still dreaming. Super confused, no idea what's going on. Mom comes into my room like usual. She seems really out of it too. Ask her what's going on. Says to get up and get ready for school. She doesn't even mention that it's dark. Do some things that convince me that I'm not dreaming. For example, pinching or reading. Decide to just go with it since I have no idea what else to do. Get ready for school. Clocks say it's about 6:45. Definitely should be getting light out, but it's not. Dad and younger siblings also seem really out of it. No one is talking much. Everyone's just shuffling around getting ready. Even younger brother doesn't want to say much. We all head off to school. Nope, still dark. Bus comes to pick us up. Same thing. Everyone's out of it. No one's talking. Sit next to a friend of mine. Ask him what the hell's going on. He shrugs and acts like he doesn't know what I'm on about. What the hell.exe? We get to school. It's almost 7:30. The sun isn't up. I start getting more and more freaked. By 10 I'm literally panicking. Still dark and no sign of dawn. No one is talking about it. Ask the teacher WTF. She also acts like I'm talking gibberish. Don't know what else to do. End up just pretending to be okay with it. Hang out with friends at lunch. Quietest I've ever heard it. Go home, spend the night in my room. Say I'm not feeling good, but really I just feel like I'm losing my mind. Like seriously, I thought I had completely lost my mind. Eventually pass out despite being panicked. The second my head hits the pillow. It's morning. Feel like I've just slept 8 hours. It's light out. Instant relief. Mom comes in, gets me up. Tell her about my dream.
Maybe it was your way of dealing with yesterday.
Stomach drops. What?
You were in such a strange mood all day. Anon, you just sulked around like something was wrong.
Get up, turn on news. It's tomorrow. Yesterday happened. I was not dreaming. Talked to everyone and here's the version they told me. I woke up and wouldn't say anything to anyone. Was really distant and cold all day. Everyone said they thought something must have been wrong. I kept talking about how the sun wouldn't come up. Parents thought I was high. Friends thought I was possessed. No one remembers the day the way I do. No idea what happened that day in 8th grade.
Does anyone remember that video?
Where is it?
Of the family in Tallahassee who recorded this sound coming out of the sky. I actually live in that same area and I heard it too. Live alone in a small trailer. I'm at my table reading a book and eating dinner when I hear what sounds like the distant roar of a jet engine. We'd had some really bad storms, so I figured it was probably more thunder. Sound keeps getting louder. It's definitely getting closer. Run to the door and look out at the sky, thinking maybe a plane was going down. A lot of trees, so I can't see much. The noise is almost deafening now. It's like there's a jet engine right on top of my house. The sound is literally making my head throb. The only thing I've ever felt that was even close to this is that feeling you get when you manually force yourself to relax your entire body. It's like I'm fighting to stay conscious. Drop like a sack of potatoes in the doorway. I can't move. It's like the sound is pinning me to the ground. I throw up. This goes on for what feels like eons. The sound swells in intensity and changes over time. By the end, it sounded much more like some piece of huge industrial machinery as opposed to an engine. Super bright flash of light out of nowhere. Sound instantly stops. I called 911 and they told me a lot of people had reported the same thing and that they're not sure what's going on. Also, when I went into my backyard the next day, squirrel is lying at the base of a big tree. Figure it must have been stunned by the sound and fell and broke its neck. Go up to get a better look. Nope.exe. Whatever killed that squirrel, it wasn't a fall. Its eyes were bulging almost completely out of its skull. Looks like it suffered some kind of massive brain hemorrhage. I remember the way my head throbbed when the sound was on top of my trailer. Consider myself lucky.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.